heard some wonderful discussion, lots of keen eyes picking up on different risks associated with the design and some questions about why a roundabout would be removed for a signalized intersection when we know the roundabout would probably have better safety outcomes. Unfortunately, that's not an uncommon thing to be occurring because of congestion issues, and traffic signals tend to have better performance in terms of getting traffic through there because you're able to add more and more lanes, but roundabouts are a bit more static in that. Once it's there, that's about it. Anyway, some good discussions there. And Marissa, have we got everyone back into the main group?
Yeah, we do. Looks like we've got everyone back. Thank you, everyone. I'll just ask that you pop yourselves on mute, if that's okay. You're welcome to leave your camera on if you like. I'll just ask that you pop yourselves on mute, just so we don't get any feedback in between. But I think, yeah, we've got everyone back. So how about we start our presentation? So we can start with group one, room one.
And I
Um,
might share my screen, and just
oh, yep,
so if you want to talk about any
yeah,
specific area of the design, we
yep.
can just
You can
chat through
zoom in.
that collaboratively.
So room one, did we have someone from room one that would like to nominate themselves to present? You're welcome to unmute yourself. And so
And who
we've
was in
got
room one, Marissa?
we've got Brianna, Joe, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but Joe Thai, and El Hadi and Vanya. Anyone at all who was presenting room one?
I might go ahead and walk through a few things that we've picked up.
Good on you. Thank you
Oh,
very
yes,
much.
thank you.
All right. Okay. Yep. Sorry. I'll just get my zoom in. Oh, yep. You're sharing already. Okay.
Oops.
Yep. So one of the items which we thought was a bit of a hazard was just those slip lanes. The approach angle is quite acute, which would cause some sight distance issues. Um, we also noticed that the bus stops are placed quite closely to the slip lanes as well. So, it's a bit of a double in that, they're trying to look right to find a gap, and they're probably not going to notice the bus stop on the left as they pull out and accelerate into the gap. So we saw that as, quite a high severity with, rear end accidents.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah, another one which is related is the bus stop locations. So there's quite a number of the bus stops are placed quite close to the intersections on the departure sides, and they could probably be shifted further away to prevent, vehicles queuing behind them and queuing across the intersections, which could potentially lead to severe, kind of side-on accidents.
Right.
Um,
And what was the level of risk associated with the bus stops there?
um, what's the level of risk? So yeah, that's I guess quite high because it could involve you know um multiple injuries in the car with the accident.
No worries. Did
Uh,
you actually give it an overall level of risk? So was it like a low or a medium or a high?
yeah, we ran out a little bit of time doing the matrix on that. Sorry.
That's okay. No
Um,
dramas. I've got to say that the risks certainly you've spotted some good ones. So the sightline issues with the slip lanes, the way that that's kind of configured, that's bang on. And also the presence of the bus stops so close. There is that rear end risk. You mentioned a little bit about I guess the number of people that could be involved in it, because if it is a collision with a bus, there's potentially more people involved in that crash. You don't tend to think about crashes that way. You think about crashes as individual units, I guess. So one crash, regardless of how many people are involved, would be minor or serious or fatal, not really dependent on how many volumes of people there are, but well-written risks, and two that I would certainly include if I was doing this as an audit. So thank you for sharing. We'll give you a prize. Thank you so much. We'll go over to room number 2. So we'll just keep it short and sweet. We won't give, hours and hours on this. I want to keep things moving. Marissa, number 2.
Yeah, room 2 are having some discussions in our chat, I can see.
Yeah.
So we've got David, George. Oh, someone's already speaking. Yeah, George, here we go. Thanks, George.
So yeah, I guess on the eastern side of the intersection, we've identified that merge area as a pretty high risk of a sideswipe and rear end crashes, where you've got a short merge distance after the intersection. You've also got a pretty large lateral shift in the road. So if you've actually, it looks like that's an island that they're building just near your arrow there. So you would have to actually merge into the middle lane in order to get enough width to make that turn. So you'll probably have people trying to sneak through with a high chance of sideswiping the car in the middle lane. Yeah.
Fabulous. And did you agree on a risk rating for this one?
Yeah, so I think we had it as a likely medium, so high risk.
Yep. Great.
For that one.
And when I was within the group, you used a very good word that I like, starting with T, about this type of lane arrangement. You remember using that term, or put you on the spot?
Trap lane, yeah.
Trap lane, very good. So I think that's a good example of a trap lane, where if you're in that left-hand lane, you may not even expect it to just suddenly disappear. So you might just be traveling along, and then there's a traffic island in your way, so you got to jump out quickly. So I agree with that, increasing the risk of side swipe crashes there. Did you come up with any recommendations for that one?
Yeah, I think the merge is too short. So either, I guess, one of those through lanes needs to be removed, or I guess extended, and I guess moving that merge further down. And I don't know what that means for that side road, whether that needs to be closed or the actual purpose of that service road. So
yeah, great. Yeah, we didn't really give you enough time to look into how that service road could be maybe reconfigured, but I like the way that you're thinking. If we could extend that, elongate that that merge point, that would help mitigate that risk. Fabulous. Prize coming out your way, George. Group number 3.
All right, group number 3, Hayley, Carl, Stuart. Anyone want to present from room 3? Hayley, Carl, or Stuart? Okay, we've got.
Hey there.
There we go.
Oh, hey, Wayne.
Hi. Hey, I'm back. Sorry, I was struggling to get back in, and it was good timing.
Oh, that's okay.
Great timing.
Carl and Hayley.
Oh, you're in the group? Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
So are we just talking about what our highlighted one was?
Yeah,
okay.
if you could chat through that'd be great.
Yeah, no worries. So for us, we were looking at the Canterbury Road eastbound direction.
Yep.
There's a left turn slip which is being proposed for the proposed intersection, which used to be routed up. That left turn goes into, sorry, it's just out of picture, so I can't see what the name is of
Montrose.
Yep. Montrose and then northbound. So we're looking at where Max has kindly put his arrow. We've got what we thought to be not enough storage for vehicles wanting to turn left, and which, looking at that, we said that would be a risk of vehicle to vehicle collisions, particularly rear ends. So what else did you want us to talk through, Max, as the next point?
That was great. So you've covered the risk
rating as well.
Yep. Yes, please.
The risk rating that we had, and Carl, is Carl sharing screen? Who's sharing screen at the moment?
Oh, that's my screen. Yeah.
Oh, that's you. Oh, that's okay. So I don't have it on me, but I believe we said that it was possible and high. Possible and I don't know. I might have
Moderate.
the thing.
Yeah,
Moderate.
we
Thanks,
this.
Carl, for jumping in.
Yeah.
Which thanks. Go for it, Carl.
So the rates will be high.
Yeah, so we considered it to be high for that one.
Nice.
Potential solutions to how we can reduce and mitigate that risk was to there was two that we mentioned, and I think I'll talk about both. We thought about the idea of maybe property acquisition of that what we assume to be a nature strip, and utilizing that chevron as an additional lane for added storage. But something that Haley did raise is that we do have 3 lanes going through that intersection, so it may be an opportunity to, if traffic volume permits, to leave that as 2 lanes going through and have that third lane as the dedicated left turn going into Montrose.
Fabulous. Very, very reasonable recommendations as well. The property acquisition might be a bit tricky, but I do like that you've thought about the stand-up lane arrangements. There's a lot of traffic lanes going on there. So can we simplify this a little bit? That's very good thinking. And the way that you've analyze the risk, I think, is consistent with industry. I agree. It's probably a moderate severity. Rear end crashes, they're much more survivable, much more friendly. So it's probably not going to result in hospitalization. So I think you've done a very, very good job with articulating that risk. Thank you for sharing. Prize coming out your way as well.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne, and good timing getting back on, because I know you had some trouble getting back on there.
Yeah, cold head office.
Good. I know. My colleague just reached out to me, so good timing indeed. Thanks for that. Okay, we've got room 4 next. Damien, Dylan, Lachlan, Tony, and someone with a name called Zoom user, which I don't know who that is. So anyone from room 4?
Yes, I'll go.
Go. Great. Thanks, Dylan.
So we identified the cyclists as a potential risk. So we don't see any cyclist provisions on the road or the intersection.
Yep. And that's not on any leg, is it? There's nothing there at all.
Correct.
Yep.
So obviously this results in a cyclist vehicle collision. And given the volume of the traffic as well, we think that the likelihood and severity would be higher. So we gave it a likely and serious risk rating.
And overall, what did that give you?
They gave us an extreme.
Yep. So I think I've just got it up there, likely and serious extreme. So likely, it's suggesting that kind of collision would occur, once every quarter to once every year. So it's saying that it's like it's inevitable. Over a 5-year period, you'd be expecting between 5 to 20 bicycle serious injuries occurring there. So it's probably on the higher level of the likelihood scale. But I certainly agree in terms of severity. If there were a collision, we know that these speeds are quite high, 50, 60, 70. It's unlikely for that to be, bike riders getting up and being able to walk away from that. That would require hospitalization or, something that's a fatal outcome there. So I agree with the severity outcome of that one, but perhaps the likelihood could have been dropped for that one.
Okay.
I will caveat with saying that in this kind of exercise, we've given you such a strict timeline and you haven't had all the context around it. And also everyone's own opinion of what is likely and not likely. There is a degree of subjectivity to that. So it's actually difficult to argue against somebody's risk rating level. The only way that you kind of get around that subjectivity is to ensure as part of your audit team, there is a senior auditor because they've got that kind of experience of gauging the risk levels. But certainly the way that you've worded it, you've mentioned the vehicle to cyclist collision. So you've been very specific about the crash type that you're concerned about. You've articulated it well, and yeah, everything else that you mentioned there, Dylan, was spot on. think we've got a raised hand there from Dave.
We do. Hi, Dave.
Hi, everybody. The first raised hand. I thought it might be worthwhile, Max, just saying something about the context that might change this. So let's, for example, if the scenario was that the regional bicycle network meant that there was an off-road path somewhere in this area that, at least in theory, meant that cyclists didn't have to use this road, that might reduce the likelihood, perhaps. But if I was out there doing an audit and I saw cyclists on the road, then in fact it wouldn't matter whether there's an adjacent facility or not. They're there.
Absolutely. And yeah, to further that, Dave, I think if you were doing a proper audit, you'd probably have a look, well, is this a strategic cycling corridor? Is this actually like on the principal bicycle network? Is this where we're expecting cycling volumes? And if it is, then that may also elevate that likelihood level because you would be expecting cycling activity there. So it's important to, I guess, review that before heading to site and making these, completing the risk rating. Yeah, good suggestion. Thank you, Dave. And thank you, Dylan. That was great. I didn't actually get to your recommendation, though. Was there anything in there that you thought could mitigate that as a risk?
Yeah, so a primary method would be a cyclist path off the road.
Beautiful.
And then a secondary would be cyclist lanes on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, absolutely agree with primary. Let's get bike riders off the road. It's just too fast in an environment to be doing on road. But if that's not feasible, I like that you've included, well, let's at least do something as opposed to nothing. So very good. Thank you, Dylan. Next group, Marissa.
We've got our final group, room 5. Group 5, we had Mohammed, Tom, Tony, and Wendy. Anyone like to present from group 5? Hi, Wendy.
I guess
Tom?
I can.
Both on.
Oh, you want to? Do you want to?
Yeah, I don't mind, Wendy, but I guess we're just repeating what other people have said, really. But we sort of focused on the northeastern corner of the intersection. Yeah, I don't know why we got stuck on that when every other corner's probably got the same issues with the bus stops and stuff like that. I suppose that one just stood out as the left turn angle being the most like resembling a slip lane, I guess, or yeah, like an acceleration lane causing higher speeds. We sort of got to a recommendation. Yeah, so I mean, maybe if we talk about risk rating first, we sort of had two. It was like the high speeds at the pedestrian crossing and the bus stop being immediately after the left turn lane. So the risk rating for the pedestrian crossing would have been high.
Yep.
And probably the same for the bus thing, but yeah, probably a different, a worse outcome for a pedestrian, but yeah, anyway. Did you want to add anything, Wendy?
I think it's good. I think it's Tom covered it all. It's the conflict points, it's the close proximity, it's the speed. So the risk rating is what we think it is.
Yeah, no, spot on. That's great. I think and you might have set this up in your audit table, but because they sounded like two different crash types to me. So if you had a crash type with a pedestrian, I probably would have just included that as one row. And then on another row, a separate finding just on the potential collision with either the bus stop or kind of sideswipe crashes occurring near there. Just because they have different severity levels, those two crash types, it's better to just kind of clearly put them in two different rows, which you might have done. I might have just misheard that one. But no, that was well analyzed. Another thing I think with this particular risk that you would have noticed if you had more time and if you actually went out to site. But Montrose Road, this area here, it's got a bit of a steep gradient going down to that slip lane. So that's just another kind of risk factor. So something else that elevates that risk is you've got a steep gradient going towards that conflict point, makes it harder for vehicles to decelerate, and they're more inclined just kind of enter the intersection and maintain that momentum. But very well described. And I got to say, across the board, everyone did a very, very good job. All of those audit findings are 100% things that I would be including in a real road safety audit. So very, very well done. Sorry that we didn't get to everyone's 2 findings. Happy to have any further discussions, maybe at the end of today's session, if you wanted to nut out any of those in more detail. I just wanted to get a quick taste of everyone's room for the moment. But that is a good time for us to have a bit of a break. So feel free to have a stretch, go and make a cup of coffee, and we'll be back presenting in 4 minutes. Well done, everyone. I hope you all had a little stretch. Can see Kevin's added another little risk within the design as well, regarding just the number of lanes that pedestrians are required to cross to get over Canterbury Road. It is spot on that there's a lot of carriageway to be able to cross, and if you're someone with mobility issues or senior citizens that may take longer to cross roads, that is a bit concerning, just to have such a long time exposed to that carriageway. So very well spotted. That's definitely another one that I'd be including as part of an RSA. So really, really promising to see that everyone's picking up on very pertinent risks associated with that design. We do have a little bit of a presentation to go through as part of today's discussion, but at any stage, if you want to ask any questions, you can just raise your hand or just unmute yourself, and feel free to join the conversation. Today will be a little bit more administration based, just talking about how we get onto different registers. Basically, rather than just a certificate, there is formal registers on different jurisdictions' websites where they post this person is an accredited road safety auditor or a senior road safety auditor, or whatever the term that they use. So few different jurisdictions that we will go through: Victoria, South Australia, New South Wales, NT, Queensland, and Tas. Our friends over in WA didn't make the list because they do things a little bit differently. But if you want any advice about Western Australia, give us a call. And I should also include the ACT up there as well. That's very poor writing, Max, but ACT. So we're going to focus on, well, what are the requirements to get onto all those different accreditation lists? So what do we need to know? What is the process for registering as a road safety auditor? And I really like talking about this topic, which is the legal risks associated with road safety audits. I am not a lawyer by trade. I'm an engineer by trade. So you please do not take any legal advice from me. I'm not at all qualified to be dishing out legal advice, but certainly some bits and pieces that I can offer and I have noted over my career that I think are worth sharing. And so let's get stuck into that with some potential legal issues around road safety audits, because a road safety audit is very much a risk framework. It's a way of identifying risks, and whether you are the person completing the audits as an auditor, or you are the client, the road authority that has procured a road safety audit to occur, at the end of the day, you've basically got a document to say, here are the risks, right, associated with your design or your existing transport network or whatever it is. And if we are ignoring those risks, or we are not following due process associated with a road safety audit, not only can that result in quite tragic outcomes on the transport network, but it also could result in coroners' inquiries and legal teams getting involved and asking questions as to, well, what were the mitigating measures you put in place after you had issued this road safety audit? So it is quite an interesting topic. And the way that we will manage this discussion is we'll split it into those two categories. So on the first hand, if you are an auditor, so if you're part of the audit team, I've listed some issues here that I guess could occur from a legal perspective about conducting your road safety audit. So the first one that you might encounter is whether the road safety audit is client focused. And what I mean by that is you're not maintaining your independence. You are being forced to think a particular way. A really, really common example of that is if you are given a brief, which is to go out to this intersection and complete a road safety audit, and you issue your report, and you've identified that the slip lane at that location, there's terrible sight lines and the speed is high, and you've actually said this is going to be a high risk. It's not uncommon that a client would disagree and they would say, I just refuse to see how that could be risk rated as high. There's slip lines like that all over the country. We can't really see where you're coming from, that's a high risk. And they may try and persuade you to downgrade your level of risk. Now, that's a really big red flag because you as an auditor, as an audit team, you need to maintain your independence and you need to be confident in what you are producing and what you are risk rating based on your skills as an auditor. So although a client may disagree with that, that's okay. That's their opinion. You as an auditor need to maintain your credibility and ensure that you are just, risk rating things as you have seen them. So that's what I'm meaning by client focused and not just bending to your client's will, but just maintaining that integrity as part of the audit process. It is quite a common request that comes through, being asked to downgrade risk rating findings. There's actually one project that I was involved in, and I won't mention any names or anything like that, but there was a road safety audit that was completed by another team separate to our organization, and the clients received this report, and basically every single audit finding was extreme, which was a little bit of a question mark to that client because they certainly did not agree that all of those audit findings could be categorized as extreme. And so what they did, they commissioned a separate road safety audit team, which was the one that I was involved in, to go out and conduct a road safety audit on the exact same length of road. They never told us that they already had one completed. So we were completely oblivious that they'd already done a road safety audit. We didn't have any, vision across that. So we were just going there with fresh eyes and risk rating that particular projects. And we came up with different levels of risk. And then after that kind of handover period is when they let us know that the reason that they did that was just to ascertain whether the first audit group were risk rating things a bit too high or a bit higher than what industry would. So interesting example of that one. Anyway, I'll move on to the next one. Inadequate brief. So if you're an auditor and generally the way these things work is you'd be given, I don't know, a covering an email or a request for quote kind of document, or it could be a phone call. Can you just go out there and conduct a temporary traffic management road safety audit on this scheme that we've got set up? Where it would become inadequate would be where the client is not sharing all the pertinent information they're not sharing all the designs, or they are not letting you know the exact extent of the works, things like that. Might be difficult for you as an auditor to be able to pick that up, but if there are things that you note when you're out on site that don't quite add up, that could be raising flags for you as well. The third point is pretty self-explanatory: misleading qualifications or experience. You can't go around saying you're a senior road safety auditor if you don't have that experience. So if you're not on a register that says you've got that qualification, obviously make sure that you're not going around town saying that you are. This is a really important one of following the correct process. So as part of the Austroads Guide to Road Safety and conducting road safety audits, there are clear steps that are required to conduct a road safety audit. As an auditor, if you are not confidently ticking each of those steps, then you are potentially issuing a non-conforming road safety audit. And I hate using this language, but if the audit was audited by somebody else and they are not confident that you've done all your due diligence, you haven't reviewed the site, you haven't been out at day and nights, you haven't looked at all the plans, whatever it is, whatever step along the way that you haven't completed, that could be putting you as an auditor in hot water. So you just want to make sure that you are diligently working through those steps and that you have satisfied all of those different aspects of the audit to demonstrate that you are following that process. The common ones that we come across are day and night. If the client has requested, we want you to complete a day only road safety audit, you can do that. But that is the client's decision. So you as an auditor are not making that decision. You're not just being like, no, I don't want to go out at night. I don't think there's any risks out at night. I'm not going to do it. If that decision has been made by the client and they're telling you, they're instructing you that this is a day only required audit, then you are following that process, and that's okay. But at all other times, it should be assumed that all audits would be day and night. Just to give you a bit of info, when would a day-only audit be likely? An example would be if you were doing there's a new development being proposed and it's just a greenfield site, it's all just paddocks. There's probably limited knowledge that you will be able to acquire by being there at night as well. During the day, you can look at sight lines, you can, check the lay of the land and how, horizontal and vertical geometry look and signs and all those types of things. But standing out in a paddock at night is probably not going to add a lot to that audit process, because if there's nothing there that's been built, you're probably not going to get a lot of benefit out of it. So that's an example where a client may request just complete the day road safety audit. The other one at the end here is following your own quality processes. So whether you are, if you're a registered company or something like that, you might have a quality assurance policy, just making sure that you're conducting that QA internally and that you're not deviating from your own internal policies and things like that. We've included this term reasonable assessment, and that is a very legal jargon term, because what is referred to as reasonable is to a degree subjective. But what is meant by that is, if this project was audited by another audit team, would they have followed the same process as what you've done? Would they have found the same risks that you have? There is every chance that different audit teams would pick up on different risks, and potentially would have different risk levels associated with that. And that's okay. But what would be determined as a reasonable assessment would be if you are, clearly cutting corners on the way that you complete your road safety audits. You're sending out junior staff that don't have adequate experience, or it is very much a tick box exercise and you're just trying to get these audit reports out the door and you're not following that process once again, then it could be argued that that would be an unreasonable way to conduct these road safety audits, and there could be some issues with that as well. I hope all of this talk about auditing and the legal ramifications isn't putting you off the idea of doing road safety audits, because it's incredibly rare that road safety audits do get called into law courts or anything like that. It does occur. The most common road safety audits that do pop up in the legal sphere are road safety audits of temporary traffic management sites. So that's where, what does occur is you may have a stop-go controller, traffic controller that's been struck on sites, and they'll quickly do an investigation as to what all the paperwork looked like. Was there a road safety audit? What was the auditor's accreditation? What was the process that they followed? That's the worker that was struck may then go on to sue that company or whoever. And that's when a legal team would be really drilling into the details to ensure that due diligence has been followed by the road safety auditor. So that's the most common road safety audit that tends to end up in the legal world. In saying that, every road safety audit that is commissioned for a road authority, that is FOIable, freedom of information. I've had my own projects, my own audits that I've worked on that I guess I've just thought were like any other road safety audit, end up being FOI'd. So a legal team has asked for all of the details of that audit report, and they're doing their own investigation into work that I've done. It's frustrating because I never get to know the details of the case and why they're looking into that. I've never been called into court or anything like that, but presumably there's been some kind of occurrence at the site that they're looking at, and that's why they're looking at all the paperwork associated with it. So very, very important that your audits can have that scrutiny applied to them. So just make sure that you are following the steps. On the other side of the fence, let's say you're the road authority or the clients, some issues that you may be faced with if you are procuring audits is, once again, inadequate brief. So in this instance, you are deliberately not telling your auditor all the reasons for the project, or you are withholding information. Maybe you don't want to tell them existing site constraints or site risks that you know of, because you don't want to see a high risk in the report. So you're intentionally withholding that information. That would be a big red flag. So just being absolutely transparent about what is required, and all of that information is very, very important. Requesting recommendations. So ensuring that there are recommendations within the report. This is an issue where if you are the clients and you're saying to the audit team, that issue with the slip lane, I don't want you to request removing trees. Or, sorry, that's probably not a good example. I don't want you to request getting rid of a stand-up lane and elongating that left turn slip lane, because I just don't want you to do that. That can be an issue because the audit team does need to be independent and have their own design solutions that they think would improve safety. there is a balance there, because if the client is saying, I don't want you to recommend installing a pedestrian overpass because this is a $300,000 project and that's going to cost me 3.5 million. I think that's pretty reasonable for a client to request that. But those are, I guess, quite extreme examples. You certainly don't want to be, as a client, trying to persuade your audit team to look at risks in a particular way or to consider specific recommendations over others. So it's best just to let the audit team just get on with what they do and maintain their independence. Duty to consider recommendations. So once you've got the report, there is a section where you will be able to either accept, yes, I agree with that risk and I agree with what the auditor has said for recommendation, and we're going to include that, or reject it and say, no, I simply cannot install an additional taper length for that slip lane. I can't get rid of stand-up lanes due to X, Y, and Z. Rejected. It's completely okay to reject recommendations as the clients. You are absolutely not bound to accept everything that the auditor has said, because at the end of the day, as the clients, as the project team, it's your risks to own and it's your risk to mitigate as you believe is the most efficient and the best outcome. You could also defer. And what defer may mean is, maybe this is a risk that exists currently. Maybe this is a risk that will be maintained with the proposed design. And what we actually want to do is, in the future, look at other ways to investigate how we could mitigate this risk. So perhaps you're going to defer that and say, we're going to conduct additional road safety studies to mitigate risks at this intersection or something like that. So you're trying to build a piece of work to understand the issue in greater detail, and hopefully come up with solutions that are more suitable. One thing I'll say, if we've got anyone from New South Wales, you don't do recommendations in New South Wales, which is a bit of fun. The only jurisdiction that I'm aware of in Australia or New Zealand that doesn't do recommendations, they just do the risks. They don't like the audit team to offer any advice as how to mitigate that risk. Fun fact. Possible issues if you're the client as well, prioritizing, means of prioritization. So if you are the client and you are, I guess, trying to work out which areas to invest in, like which of those risks are worth developing particular infrastructure treatments to improve the level of safety, you can certainly use the level of risk that the audit team has assigned. So maybe you're going to treat all of the high risk findings. Anything that's low or medium, you're not going to treat. That's okay. But where there is inconsistency in that approach, so maybe you're doing a few of the highs, but not all of them, and a few of the lows, but not all of them, and there is inconsistency, there could be some question marks raised about that. The final one that we spoke about with the audit side of things as well is just following your own process if you are the clients, that is, consistent, so that if another client were to be issuing the same road safety audit, would they be following the same process as well? So it comes back to that kind of reasonable assessment that we spoke about before, something that the legal team love to debate about in the courts. But yeah, just trying to demonstrate that integrity and the respect for this process. And it's not just something that you can do on the back of a bit of scrap paper and sign it off, and that's it, job done. So just making sure you're following the steps. Alrighty, so different jurisdictions, we do have separate road safety auditor accreditations or registers, which is super annoying because if you work around Australia on different road safety audits, it means you have to be on each of those lists and you have to maintain each of those lists. And maybe I just don't like administration, but it just annoys me. I would much prefer to have one central platform where all states and territories just say, if you're on this global platform, let's go for it. But unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. So I'm going to just run through how we go through those different accreditation schemes, depending on where you're from. Most of our jurisdictions have 2 tiers. Road safety auditor being the entry level, which is what people after today's course, and once you've completed your certificate, you'll be able to apply for. And the next tier down is a senior road safety auditor, where you've got obviously more experience and you've demonstrated experience in specific audit stages. So it's not just all existing conditions audits that you've done a bit of detailed design, a bit of concept design, etc., etc. So you're able to demonstrate your experience in multiple stages of a project life cycle. As I mentioned, all of the jurisdictions do require that you maintain your accreditation status. So you have to continually upload audits to demonstrate that you are still an active auditor. So yeah, just something to be mindful of. It's not something you can just kind of do and then you get to stay on the list forever. You need to demonstrate that you are still active in that space. As touched on, we do have 2 tiers. Road safety auditor, just getting stuck into the industry, and seniors where they've got demonstrated experience within the space. You will be able to use this course to demonstrate that you've attended a road safety audit training. So most jurisdictions will require that you actually present this certificate to demonstrate that you've completed this work. To get onto a senior list, you need minimum 5 years experience in some area of road safety engineering. So it could be you're out on ground actually doing construction, or you're in the behavioral space and looking at the way that people would interact with certain road safety treatments, or it's the design. Pretty broad, the categories that they will accept there, but they won't accept someone that just happens to have an interest in transport, but they happen to work, as an actor or a teacher or whatever. They want demonstrated work experience in this field. And you need to also demonstrate that you've actually conducted previous road safety audits, a minimum of 5. You've been part of that audit team. Now, I'm going to share my screen to some websites now because it's easier than just doing it via PowerPoint. Can you see that, Marissa? Is that shared okay?
Yeah, can see that. That's fine.
Nice. So, and Marissa, I should have checked with you beforehand because I know that in Victoria, we did used to have another register of accredited road safety auditor website, which was VRSA .vic.au or something like that. That is closed down. That only closed down. Yeah, it closed down like 3 months ago or something like that.
Yeah, a couple months back. So this is the new site.
This is the new one. Great.
Yeah.
Because I know, so this is the new one. So if you are in Victoria or you're interested in getting on Victorian list, this is where you go, vic.gov.au, road safety auditors, pretty straightforward. Register to become an auditor. You can also search the auditor list. It's just an Excel document. So it used to be like a live website where you could click on the auditor and check what kind of experience they have. But They've gone back to Excel, so things are a bit simpler, but you won't necessarily need to worry about that. You'll just be registering to become an auditor. Need to complete the application form, submit it to this email address. The few things that you need to do is complete the technical training. You can see our training course is listed there, so you'll be able to tick that box. You also need to complete an online e-learning course. DTP will give you access to that course. It is very much a reflection of some of the content that we've gone through today. The reason that they've got this e-learning course is because they've had the previous system for decades, and the safe system thinking has certainly developed over that time. So this e-learning course is just a way to ensure that road safety auditors that were on the list 10, 15 years ago have gone through the latest road safety thinking so that they're able to complete their audits with, that current understanding. So you need to do that kind of coursework as well. It's not going to take you too long, and you should be able to understand it quite readily. That is the email address for them. I will caveat with saying I do have a few colleagues and peers that are currently having issues with getting onto that list. So I hope you have more luck. But I think that they're under the pump at the moment with lots of requests because things have just changed and there's lots of weird little glitches going on. So
I'll
good luck.
I'll just add in there, Max, that in regards to the e-learning component, if you are from Victoria, we'll actually, on completion of this course, we'll actually enroll you
happy days
into the e-learning component for the Victorian participants. Onto this site. And if you are from another state and you would like to be enrolled you would like us to facilitate your enrollment to complete that e-learning component, just let us know. Shoot us an email.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. If you're from as well, Tasmania don't have their own separate list. They tend to use Victoria's. So if you wanted to get on the Tasmania list or you want to do work in Tasmania in the future, I'd suggest just using Victoria because they tend to just use this one. Over to DIT now in South Australia. So theirs is actually on their kind of government website, and it's under contractor documents pre-qualification. So pre-qualification is a difficult word to say for infrastructure and transport, and there's a whole list of different things you can apply for, but the one that we're interested in is right down the bottom of the page, and it says senior road safety auditor pre-qualification, but you just click on this guidelines and application form and you can select road safety auditor, and that's the register there. So this one is available online. They update it, I think, monthly. But they only publish their senior road safety auditors. I don't know why. Every other jurisdiction publishes road safety auditors and seniors, but they don't do that in South Australia. So if you are working in that area, you'll be going to that form there. Transport for New South Wales, they've got quite a flash road safety register, and I found it the most cumbersome to get on. If you're interested or doing any work out of there, you'll need to register. So you'll need to click on register. Need to give them a bit of a CV about your working life, tell them your blood type and your favorite ghost and all these types of things. But there's a bit of admin to get onto this list and then upload your certificate so they can provide that. New South Wales, they actually have 3 tiers of accreditation. So they've got a level 1, which is what everyone here would be going for. Level 2, which is equivalent of a senior road safety auditor. And then they have a level 3. And a level 3 is a lead auditor. And a lead auditor has done an additional training course, which is Road Safety Auditors Lead. And that is just like an advanced version. So they have an additional tier in New South Wales. and every audit needs to be completed with at least one lead auditor. So that's just a bit to note about the New South Wales Register. For our friends up in sunny Queensland, your one's a bit more straightforward. So there is another application form. It's under the safety, road safety, and road safety auditors subheadings. You'll see they provide a list of all their current road safety auditors. And if you scroll right down, kind of halfway through, there's also a list for senior road safety auditors. And you can see that there's 261 senior road safety auditors. And how many road safety auditors? 209. So there's quite an audit army up north, which is fantastic. But yeah, just a matter of applying via the form once again, if you're up in Queensland, and they'll be able to sort you out there. If you're in Northern Territory, they don't have a separate register, but the way that they manage things over there is if you can demonstrate you are on any of these registers, they'll take you. So as long as you're on one of the registers, they'll give you a big tick, which is handy. And what was the other territory I missed? I missed ACT. ACT tend to just use New South Wales as well, understandably. So doing any work in the ACT, make sure you're checking out the New South Wales Register. Marissa.
What about the WA?
Western Australia, they've got their own specific course that you need to do, and then there's like a test exam type of thing to get on there. So there's a bit more involved in that one. And yeah, we might chat offline if you're interested in getting onto that one, and I can give you some more details as to those bits and pieces. But yeah, different approach over in West.
Yeah, thanks, Max. And Kevin, yeah, if you have any further questions about Western Australia, just shoot us an email and we can provide you with some more information. We've got a question from earlier on, Max, from Dave. Could I prioritize recommendations based on what is needed to reach a certain IRAP star rating level?
I think that would be reasonable, Dave. And I've got to assume that you're talking from the client's perspective. So you've got an audit report and then you are going to prioritize your investment on all those different recommendations based on what type of IRAP score that it's going to give. I think that's pretty reasonable. It's just you don't want to get in a position where it looks like you're haphazardly implementing different recommendations, not giving everyone due consideration, or just dismissing some because they don't seem warranted or anything like that. So it's really about articulating why particular recommendations are being approved or accepted and why others are not being accepted. So just ensuring that there's that documentation behind those decisions.
Great. All right. If anyone has any further questions about everything Max has just discussed, please pop them in the chat. What I might do, I might just jump onto our LMS, Max.
Go for it.
And we'll just
how do we finish the course, Marissa?
Yes, we'll just have a chat. All right. So in the LMS, hopefully you've all had a chance to work on your assignments. So you've got your module 1 assignment, which most of you already submitted. If you haven't, please try get that one in. You've got all your quizzes from each module. And last week we gave you your assignment to go out and conduct your site visit and start your report. So if anyone, I know we kind of rushed that a little bit at the end. So if anyone has any questions about that, please pop them in the chat. Max can answer any of your questions on that today. But that is, you still have another week to get that one in. So that is due next Thursday. I think it's the 29th. And again, that'll just be here under module 4. And you just would submit I'm not a student, but that's okay. You would have a submission button that you can submit that in. Module 5 today. So just another quiz, another multiple choice. with 10 or so questions. So please feel free to, we'll have some time at the end of this session, so you can probably be able to get that one done today. All right, and completing the course. So once you've completed all of your quizzes successfully, and you have completed your 2 assignments and they've been marked and graded and you've received 80% or higher, you would have completed all the tasks. So to complete the course, we will just get you to complete all the tasks as I've just discussed, and we've got a quick feedback form that you'll need to complete. That won't take you too long, just a couple of questions on that one. And then as you've completed all of your tasks, your certificate, this link here will become live and you'll be able to click on that one and download it. And happy days. We've got a fun little achievement badge here for you. If you'd like to just follow this link, it'll take you to our achievements website. And we've got some fun little badges and some wording that you're free to use and post on your whichever platform, social networking platform you choose. Just click on the link. We've made it easy for you. If you click on, for example, LinkedIn link, that'll take you to LinkedIn and it'll post the image for you, and you can copy some of the wording that we've got there just by clicking on it. So feel free to do that, or post your certificate or whatever you would like to share with your online network. But that's about it in terms of completing the course. I don't think I've missed anything. Have any questions come in, Max?
No questions, but I'm happy to hang around. So if anyone wants to ask anything that you don't feel comfortable in this group setting, I'll just stay on at the end of this call. But quick round of thanks to all the wonderful participants today, getting stuck into your audit findings and writing very coherent, articulate risks, which is wonderful. It's good to see that the training old Keno is delivering is translating well to this group. Very confident that people here will be able to go on to become very deliberate road safety auditors. So best of luck with your future. If there's anything at all that you do, query in the future as to how to approach things, or, how to risk rate specific items, we're more than happy to, basically maintain that communication. So make sure you take down our numbers and we'll be happy to talk you through any of those things. Another big thanks to Marissa and the training team for keeping everything just running so smoothly. Always makes things look so effortless, but there's just 1,000 different pieces moving all at once, and don't know how you manage to keep so calm and collected at all stages. But thank you so much for a wonderful training program. And I hope everyone enjoys the final assignment and gets out and about, and make sure you're wearing your high-vis vests and give us a selfie out on sites. That's it from me.
Thank you, Max. And thanks so much for presenting today and filling in for Ken. You've got the same Mo happening, just a little bit more hair up here.
Yes,
I
look at Ken and see my future.
Yeah. Oh, great. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We've left you about 10 minutes, so you're welcome to work on some of the course tasks. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and please get in touch if you have any questions about any of the program tasks or any other training courses that we offer. Have a good day.
Have a lovely day, everyone. Take care.
Bye.